I talk about this all the time, but do you remember the poll that CNN did when Osama bin Laden died, asking the American public if they believe Osama bin Laden is in hell?
Yes or no?
I went back to look at I'm trying to find the Wolf Blitzer clip where he's introducing that poll, because of course Wolf Blitzer speaks in like a tone of artificial gravitas. And I'll never forget listening to him introduce that poll in that sort of gravelly tone that he takes. But I can't find this video clip, which is now over 10 years old, but I did find the breakdown of who thinks Osama bin Laden is in hell and who doesn't. So the top line numbers: do you think Osama bin Laden is in hell, or don't you think so? That's the way this poll was asked, by the way, this CNN produced poll back in 2011, in May of 2011. Do you think Osama bin Laden is in hell, or don't you think so? What percentage do you think? Here are the options: is in hell, is not in hell, do not believe in hell, or no opinion. How do you think that breakdown went?
Is in hell, 65%.
Incredibly close. Is in hell, 61%.
Okay.
The more interesting one to me is the is not in hell versus no opinion.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think of what I thought the other numbers should be.
Yeah.
Does not believe in hell, 10%.
Yeah, so, that is probably true or more now, but that was 5% then, does not believe in hell. I mean, there's it's a poll, so there's an error margin of plus or minus 3.5% in this poll, but you'd have to go pretty far outside that error margin to not get a majority believing he is in hell. So does not believe in hell is 5%, leaving you with...
not in hell and no opinion.
Yeah, leaving you with 34% to distribute between is not in hell and no opinion.
Well, I think no opinion is going to be 30%.
No opinion is 24%, and 10% of the American public believes in hell,
but that Osama bin Laden is not there.
Which, would be the Catholic response would probably believe that he is in purgatory, maybe. I don't know.
But wait, no. Hold on. If you're not Catholic, you go to hell, right? Hold on.
I'm not saying they would assert he's in purgatory. I think they would hold out the option that he could be in purgatory if he made a good confession on his deathbed.
You think one of those Navy SEALs
took his confession? Maybe. Yeah. I'm just saying if he called out to Christ on his deathbed asking to be forgiven, then he could be in purgatory, according to the Catholics.
Hold on. So tell me exactly what has to happen. Let's say you're Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
What does a Catholic believe? What would be sufficient at the very last minute?
It literally doesn't matter if you're Osama bin Laden or responsible for mass murder.
I understand
or
it
if
doesn't
you
matter what you
jerked off
did.
once.
Sure.
Those are the same amount of going to hell.
But I'm just saying, do you need to, like, if you don't have time to say the things that you did that were bad.
Yeah, if you earnestly, if you do not have to have time to make a good confession, if you earnestly in your heart have perfect contrition at the end, then that counts as confession.
How then is this different from the kind of evangelical notion that all you need is to say one time in your life that you believe in Jesus and that's it, you're saved, done deal?
Well, in that moment, nothing, I guess. But, if you have any opportunity to go to a real confession or, if you don't have perfect contrition, then you wouldn't get that just by thinking maybe I'm a little sorry. There was also part of that poll had a breakdown of...
hold on. I would like to linger for a moment on how what you're saying that Catholic doctrine is that even though they say faith alone is not enough, actually faith alone totally is enough as long as it's in the moment of your death.
Well, they wouldn't say that faith alone is not enough. They would say that true faith spurs action. That's the Catholic position. True faith spurs works. But if you have true faith in the moment before you're dying, then you don't have time to do those works, obviously.
Is this a loophole like how deathbed testimony
essentially
doesn't count as hearsay? Like you get to count that as if the person were making testimony in court.
Basically. That's basically it.
All right. Well, I guess we've wrapped it all up. Anybody who's worried that they might go to Catholic hell can just plan on.
That's the only hell I've ever been worried about going to.
Well, you should be really concerned about Buddhist hell because it looks pretty terrifying.
Well, that leads me into so in this article about the Bin Laden poll from 2011, this is an Atlantic article from 2011 about that poll, and they link to a Pew poll with the question, do you think there is a hell where people who have led bad lives and die without being sorry are eternally punished? And then there's a breakdown
there's no way people believe that.
Well, there's a breakdown of a bunch of different religions and Christian denominations, right? So the highest yes response to that is in evangelical churches, of course, right?
But that's because they get a boner from thinking that that's the case. Like they physically experience pleasure when they consider that other people are suffering in hell.
Sure. But what do you think their yes response rate to that is?
For evangelicals?
Yeah. It's lower than I thought it would be, actually.
30%. Everyone, I don't know.
82% believe yes, there is a hell where people have led bad lives and die without being sorry or eternally punished.
But they don't really. They can't possibly actually believe that. They just want to believe
Catholics poll at 60% for that, which is insane because that's like the core doctrine.
If they don't believe that, then they shouldn't be Catholics.
They shouldn't be Catholic, right. I tell that to my family all the time when they make assertions that are not Catholic. I'm like, that's your fucking religion. If you don't believe that, go be Protestant.
Then just don't believe it. Just right. It's okay. You totally don't have to live your life this way.
Catholics, 60%
it's fully
yes.
optional.
Mormons, 59% yes. On the low end, you had mentioned Buddhist hell. What percentage of Buddhists would you think agree with this statement?
10%.
26%. Jewish, 22%.
Whoa, hold up.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot higher than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, none of the...
Everybody just says yes because they want that to be true. They want to convey that they believe that, but there's
their enemies
no way.
Are being punished, right? Let's see, Hindu, 35%. Like some of these religions being cited here, if you are appropriately practicing that religion, the answer should be no from everyone. But the lowest number here, do you want to guess who they are?
And these are members of a faith? Members
of a faith. And I will, as you are...
Is atheist represented on this?
It is not. I will say, as you guess this faith, I'll give you the hint that it's... The reason it's such a low yes response is because they are, in fact, rigorously reflecting their own religion's views on this. So it's a religion that has strong adherence to its own beliefs and values.
And those beliefs include that there is not a hell.
Right.
Baha'i? I don't know whether they believe there's a hell, but I just assume they don't.
No, the answer is, in fact, Jehovah's Witnesses, who do not believe in hell. They just believe that existence is over. And that is 9% of them.
So 9% of them say there is a hell, even though one of their primary doctrines is that there isn't.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, that's stronger understanding of their own faith than basically everybody else in this poll has. Did they give us the will suffering ever end?
No, that's the Mormons.
Oh, the Mormons. We have this. Explain that one.
Well, since we've been living here, it's definitely the Mormons, right? Let me just double check.
Why don't you just grab it?
I'm sorry, it is the Jehovah's Witnesses.
I thought by the frankly poor design of it that it probably wasn't the Mormons, who have greater financial resources, I think, across the board.
Yeah, so we have 3 pamphlets on our refrigerator. We've started a collection. And this first one is from the Jehovah's Witnesses, apparently. And it just says, will suffering ever end?
There's a picture of a stressed out.
I would say it's someone searched for free illustration of woman with a headache.
They pulled it from a WikiHow on how to get rid of a headache. Yeah.
And then it says, would you say ...
Will suffering ever end? Here are your options. Here's the poll that's being taken.
Yes, no, maybe.
I've been arguing for maybe ever since we got this years ago. I believe that suffering will maybe end.
And this was mailed to us in this house where we live now during COVID with like a handwritten note that I guess we didn't keep from someone letting us know that basically I'm too old and COVID is too bad for me to be knocking on your door. So in lieu of that, I'm sending you this in the mail and I would like you to consider it.
Is there an answer within it or?
The answer, I believe, is yes.
Oh, wow. What a relief.
Then we have a pamphlet that's called Existence of God. And then it's like a stick figure with a question mark over its head.
I don't know. I'm going to go maybe on that one too.
I don't know. It's very long, actually. This one's just a huge wall of text inside.
Well, that's one of them where they like try to give you fucking logical arguments that are easily refuted, but that they treat as sacrosanct.
And then finally, this is a classic that I've owned for a long time called What to Do If You Are Left Behind. And then there's
I think run around screaming probably is what I'd do.
There's a pen sketch of a person's face from like just the eyes up with 666 on the forehead.
Jesus.
And then there's just like a bunch of text inside that tells you, I guess, what to do in case the totally plausible thing happens of the rapture.
Everyone else gets raptured.
Yeah.
And you see like, you know, when aliens take people up to their ships for like the anal probes and whatever, there's like they go up in that beam. That's what being raptured is like, right? You go up in the beam.
I don't know if there's a beam. My understanding from hearing a description of the film Left Behind is that people simply disappear, leaving behind a pile of the clothes they were wearing.
Oh, so they go up nude.
You go up nude, yeah.
Oh, wow. Nasty.
I assume that also means that
God's
if you,
a
for
real
example,
pervert.
have a hip replacement, then your like titanium hip is also left behind, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you have to go
like
up.
All of your medical implants and stuff fall out of your body. There's like a pile with some dentures and a pacemaker. Yeah. Which I don't think they illustrated in the film, though I've not personally watched it. But
That's
I wish they had.
That's a Kirk Cameron joint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're Roman.
You are Allison, and 61% of Americans would agree that this is seedy business.
It's seedy business. It's seedy business.
We were recording today. It is Palm Sunday.
Oh, how come you didn't bring home a part of a plant that definitely isn't a palm? Because in my observation, that's exclusively what they give you. I've never seen them give you a palm.
We did have actual palm, like the ones that I would always get growing up are those thin things. What are those?
I'm not sure what those are, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're just like cured in some way that makes them weird and curled and thin. I'm not sure. I feel like I know what a fucking palm is because I'm looking at one outside our window right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have one in our backyard.
Yeah, those things definitely aren't them that we used to get at church, but we did get legitimate palms today. So it's the day where Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey.
And he cursed that tree.
Yeah, importantly.
It's commemorating primarily the time Jesus cursed a tree, right?
Yeah, I guess it's only in Mark and Matthew. Probably. It's in Luke as a parable. Really only Mark is trustworthy, to be perfectly honest. That's my own, but
well, I've long said that only the Gospel of Thomas is reliable. Thomas is the only reliable narrator.
It's the best one, but it's obviously the least reliable.
Well, in terms of
none of it is reliable. Case is remotely reliable, But
And insofar as it's a list of just wild shit Jesus ran around yelling with no context, I believe that even though all textual evidence indicates that the Gospel of Thomas was written much, much, much later, that it's still a more faithful representation of the person.
So it's in Mark. Mark being the first gospel that was written, probably. Jesus curses a barren fig tree on his way into Jerusalem there because it bears no fruit. So fuck it. I've felt that way about our kumquat tree as we've waited for it to bear fruit.
Wait, we've gotten tons of fruit.
I know before we did, I frequently cursed it. I guess the biblical interpretations of that are pretty much that, it's like the temple, which has failed to produce the fruit of righteousness. So yeah, that all scans.
What if it was a dioecious fig?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's the kind of thing that would be addressed by biblical scholars.
I mean, it would be very
We're
funny.
largely not biologists.
Oh, it turns out Jesus thought that all fig trees were monoecious and that they should be expected to have both male and female flowers. But actually, Jesus, it was his first encounter with a male dioecious fig that doesn't bear edible fruit and only produces pollen. Or here's another option. What if that fig tree didn't have any fig wasps get up in its business because of the pollinator collapse that we're seeing around us right now?
Right. Yeah.
That one tree just happened to not get any wasps going on. And so it didn't produce any fruit.
I guess it's possible, but
Jesus should have learned more about fig culture.
Well, it's one of his big omissions, I think. One of his greatest flaws. But yeah, it's Palm Sunday. It's a really quite a beautiful day outside. Allison, what is in our garden here?
Then let us cultivate our garden. It's the only way to make life endurable.
What's in the garden?
Just remember, every time you eat a fig, you're also eating a dead wasp.
I've never forgotten that. I think about it every day.
Well, we have lots of good salad greens happening. We have a big harvest sitting in the refrigerator right now for a salad tonight.
I had some yesterday on a sandwich.
And we've got way more growing out there.
We've also been given some kale again by a nice woman from church who grows. She's like in a master gardener class, and she's given us kale a couple times now, and it's been very nice.
Yeah. And I also planted some more basil, and I did a little bit of care for our kumquat tree and our house plant this week.
Yeah, I saw that you pruned off the dead. Yeah, our and I understand this happens like in the late winter. Our house plant is now without flower at the moment. It is just leaf, but I think more should come back.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I had intended to do some gardening yesterday because I just expected that it would be warm and I was going to be forced to be outside of the house because there were 2 strangers wandering around inside. And I, unlike most people, don't want to get COVID-19. But it was in fact very cold and my fingers were numb, so I couldn't do anything.
Maybe you don't want to get it though, because people haven't told you the benefits of having it.
Yeah, well, people love it.
You haven't been able to properly weigh the benefits of this novel virus.
Yeah, I mean, it's very popular.
Yeah.
Many people do like it.
It's a trend. Many people are saying.
It's great. Yeah.
But yeah, our main thing is a bunch of greens right now, and they're looking and tasting good. Hey, before we get into the catalog, I wanted to tell you that Gerald Stratford has written an op-ed about the potato that turned out not to be a potato.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Where can we find that?
It's he wrote like a blog post for UK newspaper. I will read you.
Wow. Why are figs not vegan? Figs are not vegan because they are full of dead wasps. Sorry, just had to.
This op-ed is titled, I relate to the couple whose world's largest potato isn't a potato. takes a lot to grow giant veg. My advice to them would be to move on from the highs and lows of last year and just keep growing. And it reads, a few months ago I saw on social media a couple from New Zealand with a very large potato. It was huge, larger than I have ever seen. I thought, crikey, that's a record. The photograph wasn't very good, so I couldn't get a clear sighting for identification purposes. Now it's come to light, following tests from Guinness World Record, that apparently it's not a potato, but a gourd tuber. My first impression from viewing the photo was that the skin didn't look right for a potato. Over the last 60 plus years, I've seen many potatoes of many varieties. The biggest potato I've seen personally was one grown in a field by a local farmer that weighed in at 1.92 kilogram. My own personal best has been 1.42 kilogram. The Guinness World Record stands at just under 5 kilograms, so I've got some ways to go still. If there had been a picture of the potato, I would have been able to identify it as a potato or a gourd. All of the gourds I've ever seen or grown usually have leaves like a cucumber or marrow, as they all belong to the curcubit family. The other thing that occurred to me was that it could be a sweet potato, but they are not strictly a potato but a yam. I feel really sorry for the couple that dug up the potato and thought they had won a world record. It must have been devastating to hear the news that they hadn't after all. My advice to them would be, forget about it now, move on from the highs and lows of last year and just keep growing. Who knows, a giant potato may yet come their way. He goes on to talk about his own experience growing giant veg.
Big veg.
Big veg.
Yeah, that does raise a really good point, which is these people must have been fairly either unobservant or inexperienced gardeners
I
to
think.
not notice that this wasn't growing from a potato plant at all.
That seems
that it was a totally different
like the
kind of
first thing to
plant above
check,
ground.
Well, the reason that I revisited Gerald Stratford here is because the catalog we decided to talk about today was one of the catalogs. So I had reached out over social media to ask Gerald Stratford, the patron saint of this podcast, what his favorite seed catalogs were. And he offered two options. One was the D.T. Brown catalog. And when I went to the D.T. Brown website to request a free catalog, it said, we regret we cannot supply catalogs or any orders outside of the UK. There are no exceptions to this policy. So for no amount of money could I get D.T. Brown to send me a copy of their catalog. I'm thinking about buying one off the gray market anyway to check it out. But the other catalog that he mentions was the Medwyn's catalog. Medwyn's of Anglesey.
The gray market. I think it's probably...
Look, I think if I go on the dark web...
You got to go on the dark web
go on
for
the
that.
dark web to get this catalog.
How many bitcoins do you think the catalog would cost?
Probably up to 0.008 bitcoins.
That seems like a lot
It's
for
a lot
a
of money,
catalog
yeah.
that you can't even buy anything from.
I don't know what
exceptions.
a bitcoin is. How many CD coins do you think it would cost?
Literally no amount. There's no amount of CD coins.
We have 1 million of them still, incidentally. We have 1 million CD coin just sitting in a crypto wallet, you may recall. So this is we're just looking at the PDF of this catalog, both of us today, this Medwyn's catalog. It's an interesting catalog. It's named for its founder, who is Medwyn Williams, is his name. So it's his first name. Medwyn's of Anglesey is named for Medwyn Williams. He's a pretty funny looking guy. His visage can be found on the front of this catalog. And he is sort of a minor celebrity, I guess. He won 13 consecutive gold medals at the Chelsea Flower Show, which I guess is famous exposition, not just of flowers, but of all kinds of vegetation as well. And he won, I guess, in the vegetables category. He is also the current chairman of the National Vegetable Society. He's the president of the Welsh branch of the same society, and a member of the Fruit and Vegetable Committee of the Royal Horticultural Society. Imagine being the chairman of the National Vegetable Society.
It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine.
You don't think it's in your future?
I mean, do you think that's like the egg board or the milk
Like a lobbyist group?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to imagine that being my life.
Well, they
I'll
definitely
stand by it.
don't have the power that like
Big egg.
Big Egg or Big Corn has in this country. But yeah, Medwyn Williams is the
Well,
gentleman.
but you could call them Big Veg.
You could. Take a look at the cover of this catalog and tell me what you think first about the man himself, who's pictured in a box in the top right corner and also along a banner on the bottom.
What I will say about his appearance is that he looks exactly like the chairman of the National Vegetable Association. I've never seen anyone who looks more like that.
Maybe this is just how Welsh people look. I don't want to get in any trouble.
I mean,
But
he's a like refrigerator-shaped man wearing a gray suit and holding up like some sort of an award, like a piece of paper with
That's
a
probably
gold
his
circle
gold
on
medal,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know the president of Ireland, that guy, his name is Michael Higgins, and how when you see images of him, you think, boy, that's just what an Irish person looks like. Google president of Ireland and take a quick look at this guy. Like, I can't believe they found the most Irish looking man to be the president of the country.
Oh, interesting that you say that. I just thought he looked like, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't, if I saw a picture of this guy, I wouldn't be like, wow, that's the most Irish looking guy I've
Would
ever
you
seen.
say this looks like
He looks like an old white guy. I don't know. I mean, he
Michael
looks
Higgins? He looks like he's from like a Dickens novel to me.
well, I was going to say his haircut is a little bit Muppetish, but
Yeah.
everything else about him is totally normal. He just looks like a regular.
You are really underselling everybody. Anyone who's listening to this, look up Michael Higgins, the president of Ireland. You would be floored by how he looks. I can't believe Allison thinks this is a regular looking man.
Look, most old white men look
The same, yeah.
kind of the same.
I
Yeah.
understand that. Anyway, I think that Medwyn Williams is in the same category as this guy. He's the archetypal Welshman, maybe.
I mean, he looks like he belongs to a Rotary Club.
Sure, yeah. Anyway, tell me what you think about the cover of this catalog.
So, front and center in the photograph on the front cover, right next to his piece of paper that is a gold medal, is I'm going to say, pumpkin carved to look like that monster with one eyeball in
It looks
Monsters, Inc.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought it was the Mucinex monster. But no, I think you're right.
So that is frankly a pretty distracting image to have. There's like a tableau
A
of
beautiful
different
tableau.
vegetables. Yeah, everything else is
Presumably
like,
his gold medal winning tableau.
yeah, everything else is like, here's a beautiful parsnip, a tower of gorgeous
Yeah, incredible looking stuff.
carrots or parsnips or
In
tomatoes
the top left-hand
or
corner, there are a bunch of cauliflower that are mounted
on a pyramid.
on a pyramid. It looks like it's like a really amazing looking tableau. Yeah.
There is right behind his shoulder on the far right hand side, there's a bunch of carrots and maybe some onions or something under them that do look a little bit like
See an enemy.
well, I was gonna say the Muppet known as Beaker
Okay, yeah, I can see
is
that.
popping up behind him.
Meep, meep.
But anyway, so there's like this beautiful spread of all different vegetables, and then right in the middle of it, like in pride of place, is this pumpkin that's been carved to look like a monster.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. I agree. I don't think it elevates the tableau.
And then there's a second photo. There are also, 6 other smaller photographs on this
Yeah, so
cover.
this is the banner across the bottom.
One of which is another photograph of himself.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
you
right.
shouldn't have 2 photographs of yourself on the cover of your catalog. You could have a second one on the inside cover where you have your little like word about whatever, which he's actually chosen to illustrate with just another tableau of veg instead of a portrait of himself. But yeah, I mean, the rest of these photos are like extreme close up of I think it's a Napa cabbage and a pile of onions and so on and so forth. And the cover layout's perfectly good. I do take some issue with the previously mentioned choice of having oneself in there twice and the monster.
Yeah. The crest that is their, word mark, I guess, the Medwyns of Anglesey, looks fine. It has sort of a drop shadow in back of it. The color scheme of the cover is sort of a mustard yellow. These photographs do not have the fidelity that I think, like, they're not high quality photographs. I don't know if you've done
The
any
resolution
zooming. The
seems
resolution
poor,
is poor.
yeah.
I mean, it's probably fine if this is when it's printed, if it's like a, small half page layout, then probably it's not anything you'd notice terribly. But on the PDF, like, the photos are much, much worse in resolution than the rest of the cover design is. There's a lot of veg on this cover. I wouldn't say that much of it is like dramatic big veg. I will say I did find an interview with Medwyn Williams in which he says a lot of people think show growing is about big plants, but that's not true. It's about producing perfect specimens to a laid down specification. So it's interesting that this is Gerald Stratford's favorite catalog when its owner and founder seems to be coming out against the concept of big veg.
Well, I mean, I think he's saying that a veg show is like a dog show, right? The biggest dog doesn't win the dog show.
It should. And it should be the dog that fights the best too. I guess what I'm advocating is that
dog
it
show
should be a dog fighting.
fight?
Yeah.
Wow, hot take. But it's right, it's the dog that best conforms to breed standards.
Correct,
So this
yeah.
guy is saying that veg should be similarly judged by its adherence to breed standards.
Right. And on the inside cover, he does have a quote, "Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away," which is a quote, as it turns out, from, I don't know how to say his name, the guy who wrote The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
Sure.
And I think, it's a quote about design, right?
Well, he could have taken his own note on that cover.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, for a person who seems to, really be into sort of the economy of good design, there's a lot you could have cut from the design of this catalog and come up with a nicer result, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how the pages look, I'm going to just say it's very hard to look at. This is one of the worst. And the thing that's disappointing about it is that
it's not like extreme in any way. It's not like too busy or crazy looking.
Yeah, they've done it's very normal. Each page is just a single column, the same width. Every seed has one picture. But they've chosen to, over design it to the point that it's quite distracting to look at. So in the category of seeds, every different seed, there's like a pretty intensely colored rose-colored bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a thick rose band across the top of each page and then a rose bar where each variety is printed.
Yeah.
And then there's like a paler rose bar at the bottom of each entry that says what the price is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this is throughout the vegetable seed section.
This is the seed section.
When you get to the plant section, it's green, but it also has like the bolder and lighter green. Looks like onions and shallot bulbs are blue. Sundry items are sort of a pinkish,
a magenta.
Yeah.
And fertilizers are violet. Yeah. So each category is color coded, but to such a degree that it's not that helpful. You shouldn't need to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 dark red bars on every page, or dark purple, or whatever the section is. And then another, 5 or 6 light colored ones. It really distracts the eye from the text of the descriptions. So,
incidentally, he's in some of the tiny pictures that go with each entry. He's in some of them too. He's in the giant cabbage. He's in the parsnip, a lot of the parsnip pictures. He is in the picture of this man is in this catalog constantly.
Showing off how long that parsnip is.
Yeah.
And it is a
It's
very long
It's
parsnip.
big veg for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Imagine making your own seed catalog and just putting a million pictures of yourself in it.
And I will say, as I said, each entry is illustrated with a single photograph, which is good. I like it when there's a photograph of everything. But the sizes of the photographs are totally arbitrary. Like they're not sized to the height of the description.
Yeah.
But they're not
pretty
all the same
frustrating.
size either. Like either of those would have been a fine choice, but they're totally arbitrary. So I wouldn't say that my eyes are bleeding looking at this, but I haven't been looking at it for that long either. So there's still time.
Yeah, it's interesting that Gerald Stratford likes this catalog because he's like a design fashion style savant, I think. And that if you go and look at his, and of course he had that GQ spread that we looked at that one time, but he has like a very intuitive understanding of fashion and appearance, I think, that like is weird and old manish, but really works well. I'd like to see him design a seed catalog, is all I'm saying.
I'd like to see these seed catalog companies start paying skilled, qualified professionals to design their catalogs, because it looks like they all are like, how hard could it be? I have Microsoft Word and I've taken a lot of pictures with my cell phone.
Right. The letter that Medwyn Williams writes in the inner cover begins, as I love, "There's no doubt that the dreaded coronavirus, spelled as two words, corona with a capital C and virus with a lowercase v, or COVID-19, two words, as it's called, has had a big impact on our lives. Can't get away from it, man."
Sadly, there have hardly been any shows once again in 2021. Yeah, that's the thing that people are all thinking about when they think about
One of the great
impacts.
tragedies is the cancellation of the Chelsea Flower Show.
I don't know. I'm starting to worry that maybe I'm in a mean mood because I'm like picking on this guy's catalog, which I'm sure is perfectly fine. I mean, if Gerald Stratford is buying his seeds, I'm sure
They must be good seeds.
They're good
yeah.
seeds. How could they not
Good
be?
ass seeds. Well, let's read
But
some of the
it looks like shit.
Let's read some descriptions and see if those redeem the other failings here.
All right. How do you feel about cabbage?
Feel positively.
Or should we focus on parsnips, since that clearly is one of his...
Yeah, there are more pictures of him in the parsnip section than anywhere else. Let's read some parsnips. I agree.
Countess. A new parsnip to compete in the strongest possible terms against Gladiator. It is more of the javelin type, but even whiter skinned. The vigor is quite sensational and will leave most other parsnips standing.
I actually really like that description. I mean, it's pretty cheeky.
I guess, but if you...
It means nothing.
Right. I as a non-parsnip grower, I don't think I've ever grown a parsnip. I've eaten them. I don't
leave
know.
most other parsnips standing, so.
Yeah, not a single one of those sentences is fully comprehensible to
Well,
me.
it referenced Gladiator, which is sort of the standard, the flag bearer hybrid parsnip. So I'll read that one.
But wait, what's the javelin type? Because there's no entry called javelin.
I don't know, long and pointy, I think.
Is there another shape a parsnip can be?
Short and pointy.
Okay.
Gladiator F1. The world's first hybrid parsnip, and British bred to be much more vigorous and consequently a little larger than the formal Cobham improved. Although capable of being grown to a very large size, it will still retain that refined shape which is certain to catch the judge's eye. Smooth white skin and resistant to canker.
Well, those are indeed, they appear to be long.
Long and pointy, baby.
Long, pointy parsnips. But there's not a parsnip on this page that is not long and pointy. This is in opposition to what?
Great question.
These are all like meter-long parsnips, I
I
think.
think they're all javelin type.
And what's the other type?
I just Googled short, stout parsnip.
Erotic.
and it came up with an article, Learn About What Causes Deformed Parsnips. So maybe you're right, and they are all long and thin.
All of these names are either martial or
Yeah.
royal.
Yeah.
Oh, except
They're
for
all-
Panorama.
Read Panorama, the only non-militant one of these. This is, of course, the one he's displaying in the photo here.
Panorama F1. Strong resistance to canker is the hallmark of this long-rooted variety F1 hybrid. The vigor ensures large, weighty roots which are full of flavor and may be lifted for several months without losing condition. This is a variety that should do really well on the show benches.
I mean, so these descriptions are written by a Welshman, so there may be some, we need to allow for some cultural things being lost in translation. But I'm curious what you think it means maybe lifted for several months without losing condition. Does that just mean taken out of the ground?
So like I said, I've never grown parsnips, but I wonder if the way you get these 3-foot-long parsnips is you let it grow a little bit, then you
Pull it a little
bit out.
Well, pull it bit by bit, like when you are extricating one of those long parasitic worms from somebody and you have to pull it bit by bit out over like weeks. That's not an appealing way of describing this, I realize.
Let me just see how parsnips are actually grown. Well, this didn't clarify anything. I mean, this person made a video called How to Grow Big Parsnips, lifting raised bed parsnips. And I guess lifting in this case is just harvesting them.
Uh-huh.
So is he saying they can be stored for months?
That was the context I took from that. Yeah. Because they can be lifted for several months. Seems to imply storage. Let me read one more. There's the Victor F1, which is introduced by Medwyn's. This is a Medwyn's specific hybrid here. And again, the image is of him with a series of these parsnips and like a big, sort of blue ribbon to indicate that they are prize winning. The description reads, a parsnip that I forecast to be the best of any that I have introduced over the years. I won the Welsh Championship with a set of 3 in 2014. Also a winner at the NVS Championships in 2014 and 2015. An early variety and a sister selection to the later developing Viper F1. This one also carries its weight evenly along the whole length of its body with superb white color. Yeah, I think a difference in some of these parsnips is how severely it tapers.
Interesting that he mentions the Viper but doesn't carry that.
It's true.
Yeah, so all the parsnip varieties we're seeing here are Countess, Panorama, Saber, Gladiator, Duchess, Warrior, Viking, and Victor. And in that order. So they're not in any order.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Right. They're not alphabetical. They're not really in any order. It's a good point. But they are all militant or regal. I mean, the parsnips look like something you stab somebody with. So I get it to some degree. Hey, before we go, speaking of long, slender things, this is a stretch, but did you want to tell us about that moth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw a tweet about this great little scientific paper. And the tweet is from Aaron J. Corcoran. And it says, most people know Darwin discovered an orchid in 1862 with a 30-centimeter long flower that led him to predict the existence of a moth with a proboscis long enough to pollinate it. Said moth was found in 1903. Some people in the replies dispute that year as the year of its being found. But anyway, just yesterday, it was discovered that this moth produces enough ultrasound to likely jam the sonar of bats.
Incredible.
And it's a link to this sole author paper by Juliet J. Rubin showing that Darwin's hawk moth can actually jam bat ultrasound.
Like by producing a sound wave that is like equal and opposite it or something like that?
Yeah, so the abstract is, this paper reveals that Xanthopan predicta is part of the bat-moth coevolutionary dynamic. I played recordings of bat echolocation to live X predicta and found that males respond with such dense ultrasound they can likely jam bat sonar.
I mean, that's awesome. These moths also have like enormous proboscis.
Yeah, so they have this 30 centimeter long proboscis that allows them to pollinate a specific orchid. So
Yeah.
they're in two very unique coevolutionary relationships, one with a flower and one with a bat.
Caught in the middle. I mean, what do they say? 60% of all organisms have gone extinct over the last sort of like, if you rely on, if you're the middle piece of two other organisms, then you are probably at strong risk of going extinct in a world with lessening biodiversity, right?
Well, I mean, the bat is certainly trying to eat the moths, so
Right. The moth doesn't need the bat, but the orchid needs the moth.
a highly specialized pollinator. And then it also has this sonar jamming capability.
Somebody is studying this because they're interested in it, but writing a grant to the government saying, we can learn how to block Russian submarine sonar, whatever. Like, someone's getting money to study this because they have claimed there can be a war application for it, right?
Maybe, but I'm going to say that a solo author paper like this is generally like a true natural historian. Without like logging into the library or something, I can't actually view the entire paper right now, so I can't see what the funding source is on this.
Look, I'm just saying I don't know what justification there could be for funding anything if it can't possibly result in America killing its enemies.
I don't know, but the author, the author is actually a PhD student.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
That's
it's
cool.
very possible that she is supported just by a fellowship and got no specific funding to do this project per se. In her tweet, she thanks National Geographic and the Fulbright program. So I bet she's got some fellowship funding there.
All right. Well, if you're so inclined, you can elect to follow us on Twitter at @CDBusiness or on Instagram at CDBusinessPod, or you can email us at cdbusinesspod@gmail.com. Thanks to the couple of people who wrote in and said congratulations on marrying each other. We do appreciate those kind wishes. Let us know if you'd like us to talk about a particular catalog, or if you leave us a review, we'll certainly read it. And assuming they are shaped like long, angry swords, ripe for the stabbing, you should eat your vegetables.
We're all just doing the best we can.
Speak for yourself.
It's city business. It's city business. Boring talk about seeds, city talk between boys. Mind-numbing chatter about our mules and spores. We'll dig a ditch and moan and split the difference. City business. It's city